Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at making kinetic typography inside of Davinci Resolve using the Fusion page. Now this effect is pretty easy to pull off if you guys have a good understanding about how Fusion works. If not, you can just follow all my steps and you guys will figure it out in no time. The main thing about this is the timing, getting everything dialed in exactly how you want it. But before we get into this video, guys, make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe to my channel and also turn on notifications so you never miss out when I upload a new video. I'm going to be uploading a bunch of typography and motion graphics videos coming up, so please let me know down below which effects you want me to recreate, or go ahead and send me a message on Discord with the example. So if you guys want me to continue making these and as often as possible, please either buy me a coffee or support me on Patreon. It really helps me out so I can continue doing this. Quick thing worth mentioning is if you guys support me on Patreon, you guys will unlock my Motion Graphics Essentials pack, and if you support me on Buy Me a Coffee, you can buy that pack on there. Same price. Alright, back into the video. Well anyways, let's jump into it. So first let's just grab a Fusion composition, and we'll just keep this at the default 5 seconds for this, but you can retime it just by going like this, just clicking on the end and dragging. So let's go into Fusion. So now that we're in Fusion, first what we want to do is create our background. So let's grab a single background, grab another background, and we'll grab an ellipse mask, okay? And put the ellipse into the background 2, the background 2 into the background 1 like that. That'll create a merge node, okay? And now if we view the merge node, it'll just be black. But let's go ahead into the background 2 and change this to the color of the background that we want. So let's go ahead and do like a, I'm going to do like a greenish. Let's find a bright green, okay? Something like that. Now in the ellipse, let's go ahead and up the soft edge. And I want to bring this up to about 1. And now what we do is just extend this up until we get the color that we want. Looking at this again, I'm going to go through and just bring it back down to my blue color because I like that a lot better. Now let's go ahead and grab a background, and this is going to be a transparent background, okay? So let's go ahead and up the transparency. And now we can go ahead and start adding in our text. So first, the main thing that you need is what is your text going to be in the end? And I'm going to do create awesome typography in Fusion, okay? And so let's just grab our first text node. And the best way to do this is we're just going to do create, okay? Most of the words are going to be in separate text nodes. And now if we view this merge, as you can see we have a transparent background that now has the create text on it. But next what we do is go ahead and merge this up with our merge 1, and then put this into the media out. So now's when we're going to start animating this. So I'm just going to scale it up, bring it to something like that, and I'm going to change this font to Roboto, okay? And I'm going to change this to black, okay? And now that is a custom font, so you guys can look it up and get that installed on your computer. Next up, I'm going to right click and then do follower. And this is going to allow us to do the thing where all the letters move, but they're delayed, okay? So let's come over to the shading, and then if we come all the way down to position, now we can just add a keyframe on the X and Y, okay? And now it'll open up this path menu, but we don't want that, so let's just double click on the follower again. Then come back down, and we can come a few frames forward to, let's say like 19, okay? Add another keyframe, then go back to the first one, and bring this off screen. Now if we go ahead and play this, as you can see we have it come up. And that does seem a little slow, so let's come to the Keyframes editor, have our text selected, come down to text, and now we can just drag these point in, okay? And that'll speed up our animation. But now we'll come to here, and then we'll go a few frames after, and we'll bring the text up a little bit higher, okay? And then we'll delete the first keyframe, okay? So now this is what we do. It comes up. Then after that, we'll come a few frames forward and bring it down farther than we want it in the end. Okay, and we'll just slowly bring this back up, okay? So it'll extend a little past again. Extend a little lower. Just getting smaller every time. You can see my points right here. And let's see, we just want this to be a little bit before the last one. And we'll just continue to do this until we get to 0. And there we go. So now once this is done, let's go ahead and play it. As you can see, it'll like bounce up and then slow down, okay? So let's come over to the Spline Editor, drag the text over. And now that we have all this, let's select all these and then hit F. Okay, so now if we view this, it'll be a little bit smoother, okay? It'll bounce in and then slow down. Now that that's done, I'm going to come over to the Keyframes editor, select all these, and then do time stretch down at the bottom here. And then just bring this a little closer just to speed up the animation. And I'm going to turn that off, select all these points, and then bring it a little bit closer just to speed up the beginning animation again. And there you go, as you can see that looks really good. So now let's come up back to the follower, come back to the timing, and then we'll add a little bit of a delay, okay? And that'll make it look kind of funky at first, but if we come back to the beginning, we can see all the letters coming up individually. So I'm going to want this to be faster. I'm going to put the delay at about 2 or 1.5 to 2, okay? And now if we go ahead and play this, as you can see, it all comes up separately and all does the bounce effect. Okay, so something that I'm going to do, you guys don't have to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and enable motion blur. Okay, I'll bring the quality up to 10. And now if we play this, it'll play back a little bit slower, but at this way we have nice looking motion blur and we can just see what that looks like, okay? And the reason I do it now is so that in the end, once I'm ready to export it, I don't have to go through all of our different nodes and add it. So I just like adding it right when I'm using the node. And then what we can do, we'll just let this finish caching here, and then we can play this again, okay? And then what we can do is come down to the little play bar here, and then uncheck motion blur after right clicking, okay? And now this will play it back without any motion blur even though it is turned on. It's not doing it right now because it's already cached, but if we update a setting, let's say just up the scale a little bit, then undo that, now it will not have any motion blur. Okay, so now we're going to have this come up, and then our next text is going to be awesome, okay? So let's go ahead and grab a text node, alright, and we'll come up here and type in awesome. And now we'll change this back to the font that we want. You guys can change the font up, do whatever you want, just to give it the effect that you guys are looking for. And now inside of this, we'll change this to, I'm going to say medium, okay? And in the merge 4, I'm going to come and add a -90 rotation to it. Okay, now that that's done, I'm going to come back into the text, and I'm going to do all of the position movements inside of here, okay? So not in the merge, I want this to stay at 0.5. I'll just change the stuff in the text, okay? So let's go ahead and go to the spot where the crate is completely done animating. And now we can get our text positioned. So let's go ahead and scale this up a good amount. And what we can do to make it easier is come to the V anchor. And if we hit the button all the way on the left, that'll make it so that it's like the pivot point for everything is on top. And then the H anchor, if we click this one, it'll be all the way up at the top. So it'll all come off of this point. So if we just line this up with the end of the text here, just like that. And now if we come up to scale it, as you can see, it'll size off of that point, and that's going to be a lot easier just to get it to look how we want it to. So I'm going to scale this down because I don't want it to be quite so big. And now what we'll do is come and find the spot that we want it to like rotate out to reveal that. So let's just come out. And I'm actually going to have it come out at about right here, okay? So after the merge 4, let's just add a transform node. And now with this, let's go ahead and add a keyframe on the size, angle, and the center position. Now let's come out, let's say like 15 frames, okay? And we'll go ahead and size this down. We'll go ahead and add a 90-degree rotation to it. And I guess we'll size this down a little bit more. Maybe up a little bit. Every motion graphic is going to be different, so you guys just have to find what works for your project. So let's do something like that and have this come over here, okay? So that's going to be what it is final, okay? So let's come a few frames forward to frame like 80 and add keyframes on all of these again. And the reason that we're going to do that so far forward, even though it's not going to make any movement, is because we're going to do that like bouncing animation that we did on the create text. So let's go ahead and come a few frames after the first keyframe, and we'll go ahead and rotate it a little bit farther, not too much, okay? So maybe something like that. Go ahead and scale it down a little bit and move it off to the side, okay? And now we'll go ahead and delete this first point. So now this is our animation. It'll come down, and it'll come down, and it'll slowly come back up. But we want this to be a little more intense, in my opinion. Okay, maybe scale it down some more. Then we'll come a few frames forward, and we'll go ahead and swing it the opposite way. We'll scale it up this time. Okay, and we'll bring it up here. Just like so. So now it's going to swing a little bit. And that's a little far in the position. I think I'm going to keep the position in about the same spot for this. But yeah, we'll just continue animating these just like so. Alright, now that is done, let's go up to the Spline Editor, drag the transform over, and scale this to fit. And now let's just uncheck the center displacement, okay? And now if we select all these other ones and hit S on our keyboard, as you can see, we'll come over and that'll all be smoothed out. But now let's uncheck everything, just up here, and then only check the center and displacement. And with this, when we select it, let's go ahead and hit F, okay? And that'll just flatten it instead of smoothing it. And because of how the keyframing works, that is the way that you have to do it for this one, otherwise it won't look right. So now as you can see, we got some nice bounce animation, but this end keyframe is a little bit too much, okay? So let's go ahead and bring this a little bit closer. Just like so. And then we'll also move the final keyframe over a little bit, just to keep it all kind of centralized. Okay, so I'm going through and refining the animation, extending it out even farther, okay? And as you can see, it doesn't quite slow down enough. So the easy way to fix this is come into the Spline Editor, come down to where you can see the angle. You can actually scale this up a little bit, okay? And now we can just grab these points and we can just bring them a little bit closer in, as you can see, just like that. And this is like the amount of displacement here, okay? So let's just go ahead and do this. There we go. And now let's select all these again and hit S just to update the curve, okay? And now let's go ahead and play that, and as you can see, that looks a little bit better. Alright, well now that that's done, let's go ahead and animate the awesome text on. And what we're going to do is use a follower for this. So let's go ahead and view the text too over on the side here, okay? And as you can see, it's all the way up here. But what we'll do is right click and then do follower. And now I'll come up to the modifiers and then come back over to the shading. And I'll come down to the position again and add a keyframe on when I want it to be completely out, okay? Let's come to about right here. So I want the animation to be done at about right here. There'll still be text coming just from the delay, or letters coming, sorry. And then I'll add a keyframe over here. And what I'll do is just animate the X value so that it comes up and is behind that E text, okay? So now as you can see, it'll come out. And what we'll do right away is grab down a rectangle mask and get this positioned right up here so you can view the text, but it gets cut off by the E, okay? So we'll do that. So right now this is our effect, okay? So let's go ahead and come into the text and go ahead and extend this animation, or make the bounce effect like we have done in all the other ones. Alright, so now if we go ahead and play this, as you can see there's some bounce animation going on the awesome text. But let's come into the Spline Editor. Let's drag that over so we can see it. And now with this, since it's again a positional data, we will select all of it and then hit F, okay? And now if we go ahead and view this, as you can see that'll ease out and that looks really nice. Now let's come up to the modifiers and add a bit of delay, okay? So if we just come up here, we'll add some delay and change the order right to left. So that means the E will come on first and the A will come on last. So now if we watch this, as you can see, those come on separately. But let's go ahead up the delay a little bit more to probably about like 2. Alright, and that looks pretty cool. And one thing I also want to do is animate the opacity, okay? So let's say this is the frame that everything is on. Come over to the style, add a keyframe on the opacity. Come to the frame 36, and bring the opacity down. Now if we play this, as you can see, it'll fade on and pop out at the same time. And the letters are jiggling a bunch there, which adds a lot to the effect. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and work on making, personally it was my favorite one. If we come back to the edit page, it's the one that says to learn, okay? And the letters all swing down, and I think that looks really good. So let's come back over here, and we'll go ahead and create this now. So let's just select our transform and merge and bring it off to the side here, okay? So we have more room to work. And now we'll go ahead, grab another text node and come up here and then do typography. And you can have this text as whatever you want. You don't have to be using the same text, obviously. And we'll come and do rubato. And I'm going to do thin for this, okay? We might actually do light. That's just a little thicker, okay? And we can come to this frame here once it's all done. Okay, and in the merge, we'll do -90 as usual. And then in the text, we'll come up and do all the sizing. Again, we can do the V anchor and the H anchor just to get it in the correct spot. And I'm actually going to change it to thin because I like the small letter look, and I'm also going to up the tracking, okay? So we'll just get a nice balance between these. There we go. And I like the look of that. And now with this, we are going to do all of this with the follower again. So let's go ahead, right click, and then do follower. And I'm going to have this come out about right here is when it's going to start to swing. Actually, wait a minute. No, we'll come back and it'll start to swing at this keyframe. So if we come over to the transform tab, okay, we have a pivot point, and based on how Fusion works, let's go ahead and view this text over here quick. And we'll have to add a keyframe to that to be able to adjust any parameters, okay? In the follower, you have to add a keyframe for it to change anything. But let's grab the pivot point then. It's just right over here. As you can see, it's changing. And we'll put this at the top of the typography text, okay? Alright, so you'll have to do some playing around with the pivot point because for some reason, if I put it right at the top, it will not rotate exactly off that point. So I found a spot that I kind of like. I'm just going to bring it down to about the middle of the text, and that will get me the best results, okay? But this will all depend on your font and the position of the text. So I'm just going to put it right here, and that looks like it's pivoting from about the right point. So now in the first frame, let's go ahead and do -90, and that's not going to be quite perfect, okay? So let's just go ahead and hold down Control while dragging on this until it disappears, okay? And there'll be one spot that it will be completely gone. And there we go, we found that. It is no longer visible. Then let's come a few frames forward, and we'll go ahead and bring the rotation back out to the default, and we'll actually swing it past a good amount, so like 40 degrees, okay? And then we'll just continue doing our swing animations. Alright, now if we go ahead and watch this, I have my swinging all done, and that looks pretty good. But let's come up to the Spline Editor, drag the text over, go ahead, select all these, and since it's a rotation, we have to hit S, okay? And how you can tell if you have to hit S or F, if it's coming up and then down, that's when you hit S. But if it's just going up, that's when you hit F. Alright, so let's go ahead and play this, and as you can see, that is looking pretty good. Now what we'll go ahead and do is come over to the delay, and go ahead and bring this up, okay? And again, I want this to be right to left. So now let's go ahead and play this, and there we go, we have our typography text swinging on. And I'm going to make this a little bit faster, just cut the time in half, okay? And now let's go ahead and play it. And there we go, that looks pretty cool. I still think it's a little slow coming on, so let's go ahead, bring this down. And now let's go ahead and play it. And there we go, I really like that effect. What I'm actually going to do is come over to the Keyframes editor and view this, and I'm going to make the beginning animation a little bit slower, or a little bit faster. So next up we're going to add the in text, and we'll do that like at about this frame. It'll start swinging down, okay? So I'm going to have it swing off of the typography text, and then have the fusion swing off of the create text, kind of what I did in the intro example. So grab the text, bring it down, and connect this up, and then type in, okay? And go ahead, select this to Roboto, and we'll go ahead and put the merge and do -90 angle on this. Now in the text, we'll go ahead and find the location in which we want this. So there we go. Let's go to when the typography text is all the way done. So something like that. I'm actually going to scale this up to 0.75, okay? Bring this down, and we'll add some tracking to it. Maybe a little less. We could actually make this black, so it's a little thicker. Alright, I'm going to have it like that. Now after this, let's do shift space and add in the DVE. And with this, what we want to do is grab the pivot point and put this pivot point on the top of the I and the N, or our text. And this one will actually work correctly, as you guys can see. Alright, so we'll just keep it like that. And now let's go to the frame that we want this to start coming on. So I'm going to say about right here, and we'll go ahead, bring this all the way back to +90 actually. And we'll go ahead, add the keyframe on that. Come a few frames forward, have this swinging all the way out, and we'll just use about the same animation as the one on the typography text. Alright, now that that is done, let's go ahead and come up to the Spline Editor, drag the DVE over, and as you can see, that's going up and down. So let's select this and then hit S, okay? And now if we go ahead and play this, as you can see, we have a nice looking animation. Let's go ahead and fine tune these points if we just zoom to fit, okay? And then come right on down. I'm going to go ahead and just bring these a little bit closer and spread them out a little bit, just to get the animation looking a lot better. And there we go, that's looking pretty good. Alright, so let's come back to the beginning and go ahead and play it. And as you can see, this is looking pretty good. And now is when we're going to have the fusion text swing out from the bottom, okay? So let's come all the way to the end so that there's no animations happening. And close the Spline Editor for now. Add in another text node and type in fusion in this one. Change this to Roboto. And go ahead and put this on, I'm going to say light again, or thin, okay? We'll have the fusion text be thin. And in the merge, let's do -90, okay? And we'll go ahead and select the H and V anchor, okay? And get this set how we want it. Then we can just up the size. Okay. I'll bring it up a little bit more, something like that, okay? and then up to tracking to extend it all the way to the end there. Now let's go ahead and add in the DVE and do the same thing as last time, just this time having it pivot from the create text. Also forgot to mention, this time it is the Y value instead of the X value. Now that that's done, I'm coming up to the Spline Editor, and once again go ahead and smooth out this line. And then I'm going to go through and adjust the points, because I think this is coming out just a little bit too far, okay? So we'll go ahead and then just compress all of these. Alright, now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead, uncheck motion blur, and then click on my media out. And I'm going to go ahead and get a render with the motion blur. If you guys don't have a computer that will render this out fast, you guys don't need to do this. I just want it because it looks kind of cool. Alright, so now that the render is completed, let's go ahead and check this out. As you can see, this looks pretty cool. One thing I forgot to mention, if you guys want either of these that I have made, there's this one and then the one that I had showed in the beginning. I will have those available for my Patreon supporters. It's just $5 a month and it really helps me so I can continue making these videos. Well anyways, now that that's done, the last thing that you need to do is add a drop shadow. Now this isn't required, but I think it looks good. And in fact, I'd forgotten to do it to the first one. But if we do this, let's just bring down the shadow strength, bring down the blur a little bit, and bring the distance a little bit closer. Alright, just something like that. It really makes it stand out a lot more. Alright, now both of these have rendered with the drop shadow, and as you can see, they look pretty nice, and especially our second one here, I love the look of it. We can maybe speed it up just a little bit, but that's easy to do using the Keyframe Editor inside of Fusion. Alright, if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, also subscribe, turn on the notifications so you never miss when I upload a new video. Remember to let me know what you guys think about this down below, and I'll see you guys next time for another video.